viewers, welcome to CC Gurukul Lectures. I am Dr. Sanava Soham from Department of Botany, Kalandi College, University of Delhi, and in the previous lecture I was discussing numerical taxonomy, and we had basically discussed up to the making up of similarity matrix based on the similarity coefficient. Now I will start with cluster analysis. So after making a similarity table, it is rearranged so that OTUs whose members have the highest mutual similarity are brought together. This can be done by several methods, and related taxa groups are generalized. So these clusters basically, which are based on the similarities of the taxon or the OTUs being studied, are called phenons and can be arranged hierarchically in a tree diagram or a dendrogram. Now this slide shows a dendrogram representing a hypothetical hierarchy of group or a taxa. In this, you can see on the left side is the percentage of similarity which is given, and a dendrogram is plotted based on the similarity of the taxa or the groups which are basically having more similarity, the percentage coefficient is higher, and then we see that they stem up according to the similarity in the form of different taxa, and these are the phenon lines. Basically, these phenon lines or the horizontal lines help in delimitation or demarcation of a particular big group from other groups based on the overall similarity. So we can see these are closer taxa. Now this as a group is closer to this group of the taxa or the OTU studied. So this dendrogram thus helps in finding out or understanding of the related or the disrelated, unrelated species or the taxa being studied. So the delimitation of phenons is done by drawing horizontal lines, as you had seen in the diagram, across the dendrogram at a chosen similarity value. Such a dendrogram will have reference to a given study only and cannot be generalized. Thus, phenons will be arbitrary and relative to groups within the limits of only one analysis, and these may vary with various groups being studied. Now, moving on to the advantages of numerical taxonomy. So in comparison with the classical taxonomy, the data in numerical taxonomy are collected from more variety of sources such as morphology, physiology, phytochemistry, cytology, etc., etc. Secondly, through numerical taxonomy, much taxonomic work can be done by less highly skilled workers as it is more of statistical. Thirdly, numerically coded data may be used easily for the creation of keys, maps, descriptions, catalogs, etc. with the help of existing electronic data processing system in herbaria and other taxonomic institutions. Fourth one being, because the numerical methods are more sensitive in delimiting taxa, they provide better keys and classification systems in comparison to classical taxonomic methods. The fifth one, or the fifth advantage of numerical taxonomy, is the quality of classical taxonomy is improved by numerical taxonomy as more and better described characters are used in the latter. And I had given examples where we create rigorous matrix and we take in lot of characteristics. So this improves the quality of classification. The sixth point is numerical taxonomy has suggested several fundamental changes in the classical principle of taxonomy in general and classification system in particular. Also, number of existing biological concepts have been reinterpreted in the light of numerical taxonomy, because obviously it has given empirical approach, it is more practical, so there have been reinterpretations based on the improvements. The last and the most important contribution of numerical taxonomy has been to help taxonomists analyze their methods data and conclusions more objectively and logically. So what are the applications of numerical taxonomy? Let's take some examples. Numerical methods are used considerably to study the similarities and dissimilarities in bacteria and other microorganisms. It has been really helpful in finding out that. Numerical taxonomy is used for delimitation of several angiospermous genera like Solanum, Oryza, etc. Also, several angiospermous taxa have been reclassified using numerical methods. Sneath and Sokal have mentioned several examples of the application of numerical taxonomy in several angiosperm genera. For example, Epocinum in Crotalaria cucurbita, numerical taxonomy has played an important role. Now, once we are through, we shall now understand how phenograms are made and what are basically phenograms. So the term phonetics, as was proposed by Sokal and Sneath, is based on the principles of numerical taxonomy. In this scheme, we all know, as I've already discussed, weightage is given to overall similarity of the characters being used. Taxa with similar structural characteristics are called phonetic groups. From a given group to taxa, the phonetic groups can be expressed and analyzed through a branching diagram known as phenogram or dendrogram. Since phonetics uses overall similarity between taxa in question, for construction of a phenogram, one has to identify taxa to be classified and the characters to be compared. So, the taxa in question, which is known as operational taxonomic unit, need to be organized into groups based on overall similarity in the way I just discussed. At the end, the hierarchical pattern of grouping is expressed as a branching diagram or phenogram without implying any evolutionary relationships. So let us presume that we are constructing a phenogram for a taxa A, B and C by comparing their characters 1, 2 and 3. This is a hypothetical example. So for that, the characters could be first qualitative, easily distinguishable, morphological features such as leaf, petiole, flower, inflorescence, fruit, etc. Or it could be number, color, petals of the number of the petals, etc. Or the characters could also be quantitative, that is the length of the leaf, the area of the leaf, the height of the leaf, where basically quantification is possible. So if we find out that basically the characters, the next step would be depiction of character taxon matrix in a tabular form. Here in this, what we see is, I talked about 3 taxon and their 3 arbitrary characteristics. So we basically make a character taxon matrix. So these are the characters and these are the taxon, and we find out the presence of that attribute in particular taxon. So in this we can see character 1, 2 and 3 are present in taxon A, whereas only character 1 is present in taxon B and C shows no presence of any of these attributes or characters. So in this manner we create a character taxon matrix. A simple analysis of this character taxon matrix data suggests that, as I told you, taxon A possessed all 3 characters, which is distinctly different from other 2 taxa B and C. So we can then conclude that taxa B and C are similar or closer in possessing characters 2 and 3. Now this slide shows a phenogram, a simple phenogram for the hypothetical example which we took of A, B and C. So now we had studied 3 characteristics 1, 2 and 3, and we saw the presence and absence of characteristic in them. So you see that this is a diagrammatic representation in the form of a phenogram of the character studied, and we can see that this phenogram shows B and C taxa are much closer to each other than they are to the taxon A. Although they come from a common ancestor, but based on the 3 attributes 1, 2 and 3 which we studied, we can definitely group them into in this manner and create a phenogram where B and C show similarity and are placed closer to each other, and they are less related to A in comparison to each other. Now, a phenogram can also exhibit a number of taxa relationships based on a large number of characters. So, more the characters, better is the analysis. Moving on to the last part of the lecture, which is cladistics. Now, what is cladistics? Cladistics means the word is a Greek, it comes from a Greek word, klados, which means branch. So, cladistic or phylogenetic systematics is a system which classifies organisms on the basis of shared ancestry. Unlike phonetics, where the organisms are assigned to taxa, group of a genus or families, etc., on the basis of just the morphological similarities. So, cladistic basically looks into the shared ancestry aspect as well. Cladistic attempts to develop a classification of living and extinct organisms based on evolutionary ancestry. It places more emphasis on objective, quantitative analysis, evolution and genealogy, in contrast to subjective use of characters in phonetics and traditional biological taxonomy. The term phylogenetic systematics was first introduced by a German entomologist, Willi Hennig, in 1966. It's just for your information. The term clade was introduced by Julian Huxley in 1958. Kane and Harrison introduced the term cladistics in 1960, whereas Meyer in 1965 used the term cladist. So, we'll move on to the understanding of cladograms. So, what is a cladogram? It is a tree-like relationship diagram that graphically represents a hypothetical evolutionary process. A cladogram uses lines that branch off in different directions ending at a clade, a group of organisms with last common ancestor. For example, if we take an example of family Rosaceae, there are 3 members: blackberry, raspberry and cherry. Now, they all belong to this family. All of them possess fleshy fruit. They have drupes. However, a number of small fruits are present in cluster in blackberry and raspberry, whereas in cherry, drupes are larger and they are single. So, this diagram shows a phylogenetic tree depicting 3 groups in the rose family. Now, you can see the common ancestry. There's a common ancestor for all 3 types of berries, which are the member of Rosaceae, but based on the evolutionary basically deviation, we can see that blackberries and raspberries have a different clade. They are branched separately and they form a different group which is more closely related instead of cherries which have single drupes. So, cladogram thus or phylogenetic tree helps in finding out they also helps in telling with the help of these branches about the evolutionary descent or the deviation or diversion that happened during the timeline. Now, if we talk of cladograms, the given evolutionary tree suggests that blackberry and raspberry are closely related to each other, then either of them is closely related to cherry. It can thus be interpreted that blackberries and raspberries are probably derived from a more recent common ancestor. It can also be said that these 2 groups are sister groups. Why? Because they are closely related to each other, because they have recent common ancestor. This conclusion can be substantiated by other evidences from phytochemistry or DNA sequencing studies. Now, we shall understand what is a clade. I had just used the term clade in the previous slides. So, what is a clade? A clade is a group consisting of a species extinct or extant and all its descendants. So, it is a single branch on a tree of life. When we are creating a cladogram or a tree of life, the single branch, each single branch is designated as a clade or represents a clade. It is the only acceptable unit in cladistics. It is always monophyletic, that is, it only has one ancestor. So a single clade will only have obviously one common ancestor. Otherwise, it will not be a clade. So what happens is the ancestor could be actual or even hypothetical. Say if we have not much clue about the recent ancestor, it can be actual or even hypothetical. It generally has a binary two-way inner node. The two taxa, one on either side of splits, are called the sister taxa or sister groups, as we had seen in the slide of raspberry and the other berry. For example, raspberry, blackberry were the sister groups in Rosaceae family. It is an attempt. So if we move on to cladogenesis, the cladogenesis is an attempt to determine the branching pattern in evolution. These patterns are determined by using derived, which are apomorphic characters that state of the character involved. I will be dealing with the apomorphic or the derived characters and plesiomorphic characters in my upcoming slides. So before that, we shall understand the concept of character. What is a character? It is any heritable character that is employed to compare and determine the evolutionary state of an organism. For example, petal, color, number of anthers, plant habit, all these are known as or are called characters because they are heritable. They are passed on from one generation to another. It could be from any field of biology, morphology, anatomy, embryology, and we can basically study them in the form of character. Now, what are character states? We all know that it represents two or more forms of a character. Obviously, when we talk of any one character, for example, if a character is a fruit type, its character states could be berry, drupe, capsule, etc. So many forms of the characters are called character states. For example, if we talk of rose, the petal color is a character, whereas the actual colors, say white, red, purple, yellow, are the character states. Now, we shall understand the concept of homology for better making up understanding of cladograms and making up of the cladograms. So what is homology? In homology, similar character or character states have common evolutionary origin. Due to common ancestry, the two homologous taxa have possibly shared some common or similar gene pool. It is normally determined on the basis of direct similarities via the gradation of series. Two characters are homologous if one is directly derived from the other. Such a series of transformation is called an evolutionary transformation series. The original pre-existing character is called plesiomorphic and the derived one is known as apomorphic. I will repeat. What is a plesiomorphic character? The original pre-existing character which is already present, which is there in as such form from the ancestor is plesiomorphic, and the derived or the changed basically character is known as the apomorphic character. Now this slide shows, this is just a simple way of representing the homology. This shows these are two taxa or OTUs and the ancestors had the same feature, and this shows that the closely related groups have been these characters have been derived from a common ancestor. Now the understanding of apomorphic and plesiomorphic characters can be made that a primitive ancestral character or character state is called a plesiomorphic one. As I told you in this slide, you can see that these basically are the ancestors and the derived. They have basically taken up the primitive character as such in this generation, whereas in contrast an advanced derived character or character state is called apomorphic. You can see this is an ancestor, common ancestor, but the basically characteristic which is found in the current taxa in the generation is the derived one. You can see the solid, and here there are the hollow circles. So these solids represent the character is derived one. So we can see that the basically recent ancestors have different character state, whereas this latest ones have derived character, this condition is known as apomorphy. These characters are called apomorphic characters or the derived characters. Now, plesiomorphy, being an ancestral trait, is homologous within a particular group of organisms. The taxon retains this trait throughout the evolution and therefore cannot be used as a diagnostic or defining character for the group. On the other hand, apomorphy is a novel evolutionary trait which is unique to a particular species and all its descendants because it is a derived character. It has changed its forms over the period of time and it basically shows the deviation. It can therefore be used as a defining character for a species or a group in evolutionary term. What is synapomorphy? Sometimes two or more organisms may be homologous for a particular character if their immediate common ancestor also had this character. Such a character is called shared homologue. The homology is not found in overall but just few or a particular character. Such state is known as synapomorphous state. If the character is present in the immediate common ancestor, that is, the character is derived one, the situation is known as synapomorphy. Now, this slide shows when two or more taxa share similar derived plesiomorphic characters, the taxa are called synapomorphies. If we move on to the understanding of another alternate aspect, which is analogy. Right now we just discussed homology. We will now be discussing analogy. The term homoplesy is used. Now, what is homoplesy? It is a collective term used for known homologous similarities. It is the presence of similar character or character state in two organisms by independent origin, whereas the characteristics which are found in the current generation or the taxa, basically they are the derived ones, and they even if they landed up into the same resultant, they basically originated independently. It occurs by either parallelism or convergence, that is independent evolution of similar features or characters in two or more different lineages or lines, or even by reversal, that is losing of the derived feature and restoration of the original ancestral one. So, what is parallelism? Now, parallelism is defined as the independent occurrence of similar changes in groups with a common ancestry and because they had common ancestor. Now, what happens is in this parallel, if we say in parallelism, what happens is that you can see that these two are similar and they show the same derived feature, but they have derived it in a manner where they are independent in origin. They are not related, they are not from one clade, but they have independently, maybe because they had somewhere down the line a common ancestor which is not basically present but evolved. So, this character evolved parallelly. This slide shows basically the parallel evolution where the two plant species evolved parallelly depending on the timeline, and they basically reached the same point where the derived character was similar but they were not related based on the ancestry. Now, if we talk of convergence, convergence implies increasing similarity between two distinct phyletic lines, either with regard to individual organ or even whole organism. That is, it results from two different ancestors evolving into identical characters. Now, what happens is that here you can see that due to convergence, what has happened, that two characteristics came out to be similar. They converged just because they had, although they had two distinct phyletic lines, but they may had some common ancestor through which they converged and they came up and showed the similar characteristic. Now, we shall move on to understanding of principle of polarity, because obviously we are basically moving towards the formation of a cladogram. So, principle of polarity is important to be understood. Now, what is principle of polarity? It is to designate relative ancestry to the character states of morphocline. Now, what is a morphocline? Once the characters and character states which I discussed are selected, they are arranged in a sequence or a series. This series is called a morphocline. Now, a change in character state represents a heritable evolution, which is, I told you, plesiomorphic. It also involves a permanent change from a pre-existing structure to new features which are epimorphic. So, we can see in this slide that plesiomorphic to epimorphic characters, basically we have tried to make the polarity. Plesiomorphic to epimorphic features, ancestral to derived, and primitive to advanced show the polarity, that is in which direction the advancement has taken place. So, for all the characters or characteristics which we study, we need to basically make up the polarity. Since the monoclines are thought to represent evolutionary changes and each character may have been evolved from the other, so polarity is defined. Let's take an example of 3 character states with reference to, say, ovary position. So, if we assume that superior ovary is a primitive or plesiomorphic feature, the resultant morphocline can be represented as superior as 0, designated as 0. We can designate half inferior ovary as 1 and inferior as 2. This is the coding. We are doing the coding. Now, thus we have assigned the polarity by designating the relative ancestry to the superior state character, that is 0, of a morphocline. Likewise, after determination, in this slide we can see that it is possible to have the following 9 type of morphoclines for this character state. These are basically the possibilities which show that from which type of ovary the other type of ovary might have evolved in a particular species or a taxa being studied. So, polarity helps us to know in which direction the evolution progressed. Assignment of numerical values to the selected characters and character states help in the tabulation in character text turn matrix. The establishment of polarity of morphocline is an important step in the preparation of cladogram, because we need to know that in which direction the evolution happened. We have to define from which feature the other feature is derived. Now, what are monophyletic groups? So, to prepare dendrograms, monophyletic groups or clades are required. The monophyletic groups can be defined objectively through identifying synapomorphisms. A monophyletic group is the one which comprises a given species and all of the descendants of that species. A common ancestor for all of these organisms is a branch point above the root of the tree, known as most recent common ancestor. Now, here you can see a hypothetical example where these trees can be horizontal, vertical arrangement, or we can make diagonal monophyletic groups. So, we can see this is the point of branching. This is the main branch from which different branches come out, and this is known as most recent common ancestor. From here the branches occur. So, monophyletic shows that from single clade all these taxa have been derived. Now, what are paraphyletic groups? A group of species is said to be paraphyletic if the group contains the most recent common ancestor but does not contain all the descendants of that ancestor. So, if we see this line of basically evolution, we can see that these two are paraphyletic. Why? Because the common ancestor, although there is one common, but the most recent common ancestor basically is away from the common ancestor which we are finding out here. So, a group of species is, this group of species is said to be paraphyletic. It has basically different line because the most recent common ancestor does not contain all the descendants, say C, F and B in this line of evolution. Now, what are polyphyletic groups? A group comprising members from separate evolutionary lines is called polyphyletic. We can see in this slide there is a comparison of monophyletic, paraphyletic and polyphyletic. In this, basically, we can very well, and through this slide, we can understand the concept of monophyly. So, in this monophyletic concept, we can see that AB, the taxa AB are monophyletic for recent ancestor 2. AB and CD are monophyletic for ancestor 2, whereas A, B, C, D overall are monophyletic for the ancestor 1. If we talk of paraphyletic, we can see A, B, C taxa are monophyletic for the ancestor 1, but D is also, although belongs to the same lineage, but it is out of group. It has some features which are not common with A, B, C. So, such groups which although have most recent common ancestor, still they are out of the group, are known as paraphyletic. In polyphyletic, you can see B and C are polyphyletic because their most recent common ancestor is different. It is not common. So, such lines are known as polyphyletic. I will rest my lecture here, and in the next lecture, we will be discussing various types of cladograms and how we will be constructing, or how do we construct a cladogram. Thank you very much.